urban design, we don't usually think about it in terms of peace and security. But I've been studying and have lived the harms we face when we don't consider what our urban landscapes are telling our communities. This is my mom, and this is my dad. And this is my brother and me. My existence as a mixed-race woman is often seen as the result of an East meets West miracle, the perfect example of how the differences of farm town Minnesota can be brought together with northern Thailand, transformed into this. Now, I love how my life holds the beauty of contradiction, but I've also found that within my own family and within the many places I've lived, the wholeness of my identity, the important differences and contradictions that make up a community are rarely reflected back in their built environments. In fact, urban design is all too often used as a tool to keep people apart. It divides us along ethnic, class, and racial lines, erecting urban barriers as knee-jerk reactions to security threats. But in the long run, these barriers actually don't make us safer. Through my directed research study last semester, I took a look at Belfast, Northern Ireland, as an example of one of the most well-known cases of urban barriers. After decades of sectarian violence between the Protestant Unionists and Catholic nationalists, the community demanded that peace wall barriers be built between their neighborhoods. Now, today, 109 peace wall barriers are scattered across Northern Ireland, and at first, they seemed to work. Sectarian violence drastically decreased. People felt safer. But it came at a cost. In 2002, Peter Sherlow from the University of Ulster conducted a study and found that 68% of people 18 to 25 had never had a meaningful conversation with anyone from the other side. 6 out of 10 people reported sectarian physical or verbal abuse since the conflict ended, and that relations between the two sides had actually worsened, with each side thinking the other was better off. Yet, despite all this, a majority of residents really don't want to see these walls taken down because they're still scared. You see, once you build barriers between people, it's even harder to get rid of them. And barriers aren't always walls. By focusing on Belfast, I was inspired to look at southern Thailand as an example of ethnic division and spatial symbolism and how they interrelate. In other words, how does our built environment impact our potential for peace or our potential for conflict? Now, a quick and very general background. Thailand is a majority Buddhist country, but in the deep south, Buddhists are the minority and the Thai Muslim Malay are the majority. After years of forced assimilation, Thai Muslim Malay separatist insurgencies began to emerge. And from 2004 to 2015, the violence has killed over 6,500 people and injuring over 12,000, making southern Thailand the most violent region of terrorist activity in all of Southeast Asia within that decade. Now, a wide range of political and economic conditions contribute to this violence, but I was concerned with the spatial. Are there spatial symbols that promote violence in this region? And while I didn't find 109 peace walls, I did find Buddhist temples in the middle of Muslim communities guarded by soldiers. Some are even reported to be run by soldiers ordained as monks. The area and its school district are also vastly segregated, with the Thai Muslim Malay community sending their children to Islamist schools across the border, learning little Thai with very little exposure to their Thai Buddhist neighbors. And while these urban designs may not be the root cause of conflict, they certainly perpetuate it. In 2005, Thailand established the National Reconciliation Commission to develop a peace agreement for the southern region. But despite its recommendations, peace did not filter down to the local level because there was no space for connection to occur. In fact, the UN reports that 50% of countries that emerge from violent conflict slip back into violence or instability within 5 years. And that's because we continue to think about security exclusively in terms of formal political processes. But these agreements fail because they are not rooted in the local reality. How can communities learn to live with one another if they are built not to? And it doesn't take war to build these landscapes of exclusion. Here in Boston, district boundaries divide public school districts by class, resulting in unequal resources for students in lower income districts who are 86% students of color. These unjust class and racial barriers were designed first as separation through safety. But as we see, there can be no real safety or real peace if there is no justice. So I pose the question, what does it look like to design for peace? Well, the United Nations came up with a list of sustainable development goals, objectives to meet the needs of people today without compromising those of future generations. Goal 11 aims to provide universal access to safe and inclusive public spaces by 2030, recognizing that a peaceful world cannot be achieved without transforming our public spaces. Remember Belfast, Northern Ireland? Well, 2 decades after the peace agreement, the city has committed to remove all the peace wall barriers by 2035, and to remove the psychological barriers by hosting cultural nights, summer soccer schools, and community-wide mural paintings to bring the different sides together. Another great example of this is in Medellin, Colombia. After years of civil war, control by the drug trade, and now a strong desire from cities to isolate themselves from the rural areas known for drug production, the mayor of Medellin instead built an escalator transit system between the urban center and the rural hilltops. Now, people, of course, feared that this would further encourage drug trafficking and violence into the city, but instead, it actually disrupted drug trafficking by turning places of dangerous seclusion into a point of connection for people to find jobs and social services, reducing the murder rate by 90% since 1991. All of this by designing barriers that transcended class lines, community lines, and brought people together, designing infrastructure that was meant to connect. And we don't need presidents or mayors or multilateral peace agreements to find ways to bring ourselves together. As I studied the international, I realized that these barriers exist all around us, even here on our college campus. As TCU president and a member of the Student Life Review Committee charged with evaluating campus social life, I saw the importance of social space for social capital. Ana Rodriguez and I asked over 88 students who felt underrepresented in the makeup of the committee to map their most positive and negative social experiences on campus. From this map emerged a pretty distinct social barrier, a wall, if you will, consolidating the prime social real estate for one type of social organization, Greek life, onto one central street, Professor's Row, with socioeconomic, gendered, and in practice, racial prerequisites for access, does not make our campus a more secure, vibrant, or peaceful community for anybody. These maps inspired me to envision how an upcoming on-campus housing project might be built and designed for peace. I've spent this past year working on turning this project into a co-living, themed housing community, where each house is designed around a different social theme that changes every year through a student pitch and selection process. In this community of homes, you share backyard spaces with people whose interests are intentionally different from your own. You are committed to co-host social programming, not just with the other houses, but also with the rest of the Tufts community and the local residents. You see, it is about transforming our personal relationships to one another by building community through shared creation. The Thai word for mixed race is lukrung, with the direct English translation being half child. Yet, despite this translation, I've learned that denying the wholeness of a person is unsustainable, and it's particularly unsustainable to deny the wholeness of a community too. We cannot continue to build barriers that turn mixed communities into half communities. Our best solution for long-lasting security is to design spaces that hold contradiction and connect rather than divide. So, look around. What narrative is your landscape telling you? Your work, your school, your family landscapes, how have you built barriers in your life, and how might you transform them instead into bridges rooted in daily rituals of empathy, co-responsibility, and shared creation? Because despite national security strategies that try to curb conflict by injecting billions of dollars into designs of exclusion, it's clear we're not actually safer. So let's think of a new strategy, and let's start re-envisioning how will we design for peace. Thank you.